Good morning,
There he
Nick.
is.
There I
Nick,
am. Hey, how
what's
are you guys?
not too
Good.
bad. We're just talking about this guy in Coca-Cola and Johnson that's buying the hell out of this stock here this morning, and he won't let off. He just keeps buying stock here. Are you out there buying Coca-Cola and Johnson, Nick?
No, sir.
No, sir. Are you selling Coca-Cola and Johnson, Nick?
No, sir.
How how come too low price stocks for you, or just things that are not on your radar, or
No,
too
they're
much
usually
news?
not on my radar. I mean, I'll look at them. Coca-Cola's chart is kind of interesting. It could be breaking out. I'm not sure, but it's too volatile for such a big, sluggish company. I just don't get it.
I get it. One person's driving it higher.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like GLD. I stay out of it because it's not a fair trade.
They'll be on CNBC and they'll be saying, "Oh, all the buyers are coming in, and Coca-Cola, and there's all these other people." There, I will tell you right now, there is one person, one institution that is driving this higher because you can tell by the order flow. It's one person that says it's going higher, and I'm making it go higher, and that's what he's doing in both Coke. I've only been really watching the Coke, but Johnson and Johnson we were watching a little bit earlier too, and I think it might be doing a lot of the same. But these are too slow for you though, Nick. You like the higher flyers and the
Well,
momentum stocks, and what's on your radar?
what's on my radar is just in general terms. I was worried about the market sentiment, not the market fundamentals. So that was what I was focused on to see if the sentiment really is going to stabilize. Because regardless of what I believe is correct, it's what everybody else believes is correct and trades along with it. So I was just trying to see if the people, well, last week, if you tried to catch falling knives, the high flyers especially, you're definitely missing digits today or this week. So I still think if the sentiment is still going to continue to deteriorate, um, the so-called high flyers will be a better way to short the markets than actually shorting the markets via the indices. So I was going to go along some good names, especially Google, given it reports earnings uh, this week, and hedge my bet by taking some shorts via put spreads, perhaps on the high flyers that have been dinged.
Could you just for the Google strategy? Could you just outline that for us? I'll bring up the chart here of Google. Just some examples of what you're looking at.
Sure. On the Google, I'm going to make it very simple. I mean, everybody that follows me tightly knows that I don't play earnings except with small lotto style positions where I know the cost of the ticket and I hold the ticket because it's a 50-50 chance. It's not so much 50-50 if the company's going to make its numbers, but it's 50-50 how the market's going to react to those numbers. I mean, they could blow the pants out of off of the numbers, but the perception is what counts and how people react to it. So that's why I call it a 50-50 shot. And in Google's place, specific situation, it's been beat down like a momentum stock. I mean, 4% down in one day on a company that good is ridiculous. And that's what it took. They took it down last week. I think at one point a little over 4% in one day. So I'm very comfortable going along it, and I'm just going to go straight out and buy some calls, maybe even some. I definitely give some time to be right about it, even if they do react in a bad way. Once I own the calls, it's an asset. Regardless of what strike I pick, in the money, out of the money, it doesn't really matter. And then I can sell calls against those for no extra margin that are shorter term in order to lower my entry cost. So I get to participate on the upside if everybody loves the report, and then I get to hedge, lower my cost entry point. I mean, there is a bottom to Google. We can all agree on that. And if there isn't, that means the whole market is in complete disarray. So unlikely scenario at this point without a new shoe to drop. So that's what I'm going to do with Google. Either buy straight up calls or call spreads. I did buy call spreads going into yesterday, and I sold yesterday towards when Google was in the 550s in the morning. Today it's revisiting that level, so I probably should have held on to them, but I wanted to take in some profits given the drubbing we took last week.
Can you talk about that trade specifically? Like what options did you put on?
Yeah, I took a put spread and the strikes. Let me see if I have it in front of me. um, what was it? 540, 545. So I bought 540 calls and sold the 545. So it was $5 spread, and I made about 50% on the dollars at risk. So if the trade cost me um, a dollar, I made $1.50. I made 50 cents on it, and I bailed out. So I left some money on the table because if I held on to it and it stayed in the money, it's gonna go up to $5. But in this environment, you can't count on that. You got to book the profits when you have them, whether they're maximum or not. It doesn't really matter. So the specific strikes don't matter. Just book profits wherever you get them because you don't know if you're gonna have them 5 minutes later. We all learned that last week.
Well, what about? I mean, I just want to bring up this move yesterday, and Dennis and I were talking about it. That sell off that you had and going into the last half hour, last 45 minutes of trading. I mean,
Yeah.
that just came out of nowhere. I mean,
Turned
did
on a
you?
dime.
Yeah, I mean, were you looking at this as an opportunity here to get long on the pullback here because it was really what other way to play it here? How do you interpret a move like that? That was one of the weirdest moves I've seen the S&Ps in a long time.
You know what? I've come to become a an expert on everything I didn't want to even think about. I'm looking at 10-year, I'm looking at the 30-year, I'm looking at the yen, I'm looking at other currencies. It just out of nowhere, somebody was trying to make us do whatever we've been doing, the slide, the sell off. But I was so proud of the market to find its footing, and it was like a calm, collected. It's like, wait a minute, what are we doing this for? And everything that the actual basing and recovery was very important yesterday, not from a dollar standpoint, but from a spirit of the market standpoint. We can all agree. I mean, we're looking around. Nothing has really changed in the fundamentals. I keep saying that. I'm sick of myself saying that. Nothing has changed in the fundamentals. Yes, okay, we're getting closer to tightening, but we all knew that. We're tapering, China slowing. That's been slowing from last year, that questionable number. Remember last year, somebody blurted 6.5 in China, and then they said, oh, just kidding, or, 6.5 can be really 7.5. So we know that China is iffy from last year. So it's nothing new. Absolutely nothing new. The new thing is Ukraine. Last time we got together, I told you we're going to see some Ukraine issues, and here we are. It's a little earlier than I thought, but now it's an internal struggle in Ukraine. Yet the media here insist on making it a Putin-Russia struggle. It's not. They keep saying pro-Russians. They're not pro-Russians. They're Ukrainians of Russian descent, and they don't like the fact that their real governments got overthrown, and by this new government in Kiev, that's not officially elected. They had a coup. They threw out the guy, and these guys don't like the guy that's going to come in. So anyway, it's an internal struggle. It's not a worldwide event. It will be if we keep talking about it like that.
Okay, so that's what you're keeping that on your radar is something that could
Yeah.
derail the market, from the long term. No, Dennis and I were talking also yesterday, and just overall things, some of the things in the portfolio that we were looking at, and a lot of these charts just look the same. You've had a pullback off the highs, period of consolidation, and a lot of times it's a continuation of the trend. If the trend is higher in a lot of these stocks, and you have the consolidation. So I have to agree with you on that. Anything else that
Uh,
on your radar? Go ahead, Dennis. You got
Nick,
something
I
for me?
wanted to ask you, what do you think of this gold move this morning? When we started the show, we were down 24 bucks. Now we're down $35 on gold. It is free falling right now as we are speaking, down at 1291 right now. And here's a chart. We took all month to climb from 1290 all the way up to, well, at least 2.5 weeks climb from the whole 1290 up to 1330. And in one day, in one morning, we are giving it all back. What are your thoughts on gold here, Nick?
Gold has been a mystery. I used to trade the GLD until I found out it's almost a rigged market. It's
Uh-oh, the rigged word, the
a
rigged
rigged
word.
market. It's a rigged market. It's beyond my pay grade, guys. It's
Why
beyond.
is it rigged? Why is gold rigged?
I keep hearing that a few hands control it and they can move price up and down tremendously. You remember back in, let me see here, September, I think we had a candle that covered, in the GLD from 125 to like 132 and a half in one day. that's I don't know what I can't invest in something that does that. That's supposed to be something that's rare and stable. Also, way back in June, it dropped from 132 and a half ish to all the way down to like in the teens, 112, 13, something like that. So something goes. There's so much that goes on in the gold's trade that I can't invest in it anymore. I just don't look at it. It still has a decent trend coming up from the bottom. It did visit the teens twice in the last 12 months. It's still not breaking down. But if you zoom out a little bit, a few years, and you have to zoom out maybe to five, and you can see definitely levels that are meaningful. And the next level down would be maybe revisit the teens. I'm not sure. So if it's looking choppy to where you see heads and shoulders everywhere or downtrends. You can interpret it any which way you want technically, but when it comes down to it, stuff drives it. And that stuff, I'm not sure what it is, so I stay out of it.
I've heard the same thing about the crude market as well. That there's some very, some very big players in that can, really move the futures as well as, the indexes in it. So, interesting theory there. I just, a couple of high flyers have gotten good haircuts here, and one of them is the Tesla monster here. Things are kind of quiet here. Did you get dirty at all here on this decline? And if so, how did you get out of it?
Tesla is, last time we talked, I may have said it was flaggish, and sure, it delivered, but the whole market delivered too, so I can't claim that I saw something coming. Now it's in a downtrend. I mean, you can draw a line from the peak all the way, on tops of the candles of every day down to here. So what is that? Three falling peaks now have become like 15 falling peaks. So maybe that's a new trading pattern. But it's lost its luster a little bit, and definitely yesterday's trade was not very nice in Tesla. I did use it as my one of my rabbits, and it held around the 202 yesterday for a little bit as the markets kept on falling. So I was thinking, okay, if it's holding the 202 and that was the whipping boy for yesterday, maybe the markets are going to stabilize. And that's what I was watching earlier. You asked me what I was thinking of that slide. Then the slide came and then Tesla lost to 202, but it still stabilized. So I wasn't too worried because I was looking at Tesla, relatively speaking. So now here, Tesla, LinkedIn, Yelp, CMG, um, and to some extent Goldman Sachs, you can almost the trading pattern is all the same. They're all revisiting really important levels. Tesla is the least as far as the important levels. It needs to drop probably around to 185, 190 for me to think the same. But they've gotten down to now they're struggling with important levels from which they can use as good floorboards. Or if the markets in general get hit again, they're going to lose a lot more, in my opinion. So that's why I said those high flyers could be good shorts in case you want to go long some other good names. So if you want to be brave and take some other longs like Apple or Google or whatever else, or even the indices, then you may hedge your bet by taking some shorts in that. By shorts, I mean just put spreads.
I
Okay.
just wonder. I
Good.
just wonder if we're going to be moving, continuing to, not those not are not going to be our leaders going forward here. Because I'm just looking at, the charts here, and you got IBM sitting up here. It got downgraded today, so it's pulling back, but sitting up here near 52-week highs. Caterpillar sitting up near 52-week highs. Deere sitting up not too far off from 52-week highs. Johnson and Johnson this morning making a new 52-week high. So it just seems to me like there's still this rotation going on where, despite the market maybe showing a little bit of life there yesterday, it's really the leaders here. I think going forward could be different sectors here. What do you think, Nick?
I think that that could be it. But like I said, also we talked about this last time. I'm gonna watch CNBC, and if I start seeing those people that I don't know saying it's a rotation trade, then the
Oh yeah,
trade is
this.
probably over.
Oh yeah, the CNBC fades for sure.
Right.
I live on
less
that.
the less famous the names are that are repeating exactly the same thing that the Teppers or the people that came in first said.
Yeah.
But you mentioned IBM. It's coming up to 200, and if you pull up a one-year chart daily, you'll see the last couple of candles, yesterday, 2 day candles ago was a doji, which is indecision, and then they decided, oh, we love it, and they bought it up, and now you're telling me I haven't looked at it today. What's it doing in the pre-market?
It's down because Citigroup downgraded the stock here today, so it's actually down a buck and a half here. But
Okay, so 196 ish.
yeah,
So in the candle before that, 3 days ago, that was a pretty ugly candle to where it's a wide candle. They tried to hit 200 and then faded down to close to below the open. And if you go back to the last time it did that, that was the level from which it broke down completely or thereabouts, and it had a doji, almost a perfect doji, way back on 7/18, 2013, and that was the level it tried to touch 200 and then whoa, all the way back down. So I would not go long IBM here. I don't care how good it is. It's what the market thinks of it.
Okay,
And
real quickly, just the banking sector here, kind of getting some mixed earnings. J.P. Morgan didn't do so hot, but Citigroup did okay. Wells Fargo did okay. Just any thoughts on the banking sector?
yes, I wanted to go long Goldman Sachs last week. I saw some three falling peaks that ended, well, the three touches of the peaks were, the last one was April 3rd, I think. And I said, well, I want to go long it. It may have satisfied a head and shoulder from before around the 157, but then we talked and I said maybe it's a 155 or something like that, 156, but I didn't. But now it looks a lot more appetizing because it's one of those that I mentioned earlier with the momos, because it touched a really important level, which was 150, where is it, 151 and a half ish, and that level it revisited. I can see, just eyeballing it, one, two, three, at least four times before this time. Once on the way up before a breakout way back in last May, 13, and then it went back to it a couple months later or a month later, and then bounced up from it, and then went back to it, and bounced up and went back to it, and then ran up all the way up to 180s. And then when it fell back down, it never came close to it, and here we are back at it. So it's an important level, and it bounced off of it. If the market stabilize, I like Goldman Sachs, and I may do like what I want to do to Google, is take a flyer on it.
All right, going ahead into earnings. Okay. Also, I just over the weekend, I just read that is getting near book value too, which is something that has not seen in a while. All right, Nick. Thanks a lot for coming on again. As usual, a good conversation about some of the momos and the high flyers, as well as some other issues. We will let you get back to your trading. Thanks again. We'll talk to you next Tuesday.
Thank you, and don't chase Apple today.
Okay.
don't chase Apple. Okay, that's the tip of the day.